Okay, welcome to TG2Chat Live, the live stream of Teachers Going Gradeless. In today's episode, we have the privilege to learn from Rachael Kettner Thompson. Rachael is a national board certified middle school science teacher at Selkirk Middle School in Micah, Washington. She wrote a blog post for Teachers Going Gradeless titled Learning Journeys, Communicating Progress in the Gradeless Classroom, which is one of our most popular posts of 2021. It shares how teachers can help build metacognition through student-created progress reports. We're going to learn more about this from Rachael in today's TG2Chat Live. Welcome, Rachael. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So let's get started. So the first question is, what is metacognition and why is it important for teachers to help students build their metacognition?
So metacognition is that ability to think about your thinking, learn about your learning, being able to reflect on your own thoughts and behaviors. It's truly that path to understanding and being able to understand certain behaviors that help you be successful or certain behaviors that are preventing you from being successful. And so putting in that time and effort in order to start developing an understanding of what's working and being successful. It's really important, for students to develop this metacognition because a lot of times they're just teacher pleasing, for lack of better words, I would say, checking boxes and doing what they expect the teacher wants from them instead of really diving deep into their understanding of what is happening. And so through metacognition processes, students are able to start moving away from memorization of just facts to being able to apply their understanding to different settings.
Okay. All right. So, so metacognition, we need to help build students. And that's really where learning is. It's that thinking about what you know and what you don't know, and that helps them to own their own learning so they can recognize where they are. So what are strategies to help students develop this metacognition? What can we as educators do on a regular basis to guide their learning to self-assessment?
Well, first of all, I always feel like when I introduce these ideas to students that it's somewhat foreign to them. So you have to teach to the fact that learning is changeable or malleable, and you have to explain your why. Why are you wanting them to go through some sort of metacognition process, reflective process? And once you give students an opportunity to understand why you want them to go through these processes, then students are then going to have to start identifying what they know about certain topics. I know some people do pre-assessments and post-assessments, and that's part of starting to identify what you do or don't know. There's other ways to go about that same process as well, but setting goals, smart goals that are tied to their learning, and continual monitoring. The practice of metacognition is just that, it's practice. And the more you practice anything, as long as you practice it well, you're going to get better. So practicing it and then monitoring the behaviors. And when I say behaviors, like, different things that you might do in a classroom. If you are not very collaborative and you're not working well within a group, that is a behavior. And if you start recognizing that your lack of collaboration is impacting your learning, and you're able to monitor those behaviors and start seeing that you might have challenges, then you're able to go back and possibly change that behavior and then move forward with some success. But there's plenty of opportunity to practice metacognition. Exit tickets are a great way to practice metacognition. It could be written, it could be verbal. It's, on the way out the door, what did you think about fill in the blank topic? It doesn't matter. What did you think before class started about the topic? And then what do you think about it now? Turn and talk with neighbors. Simple things as thumbs up and thumbs down, although my students will go through the motions and put their thumb up or down, if they're in favor of something, or if, I ask them some questions at the end to check understanding, like thumbs up if, I don't know, for some reason the moon phases popped into my brain. So if I'm checking understanding on moon phases and I can do a simple thumbs up or down, a lot of kids will just put those thumbs up, but go to that next level and ask them, okay, your thumb is up. Now please justify why it is up, or down or whatever. And then I got to say, my reflections that I do in class, that's my number one practice. We do them weekly, most times, unless there's a short week or we're up against the end of a quarter. And then after we're done practicing, we have to adapt. We change our goals. If we've met our goals, we change them. If we have not met our goals, maybe we look at the resources that are provided, whether it's different technology platforms that I'm giving students. If that's not working for them as a whole, then I will change that. If students recognize that resources they're using aren't working, then they have that ability to change as well. And then sometimes the strategies that I myself, as the teacher or the students are using, they're able to adapt and change as we go along. So it is, we are continually monitoring. I mean, that's just the number one thing, and practice, so we can get better.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've started doing recently, which I really like, is I have students lead discussions, and they have to bring these questions to lead discussions. And so one of the things that somebody shared with me recently was ask them which question worked the best and which one didn't work out well and why. And so, I think asking these questions to think about what they've learned and think about what they're doing is crucial. And I love exit tickets. I love the thumbs up, thumbs down. Those are awesome strategies that I've used in my class as well. Okay, we're going to jump into, you mentioned the blog post that you wrote, or the fact that you have students do these weekly reflections, which was in a blog post that you wrote for us, titled "Learning Journeys: Communicating Progress in the Gradeless Classroom." And these, in that article, you explain how students can communicate their own learning through student-created progress reports. So what are these student-created progress reports, and how do students use them to both reflect on their learning and communicate their learning?
Yeah, this has been a process over the years. I've had students go through this metacognition different ways, and the content I was getting from students, I just wanted to share, like, with anyone that will listen, including their parents, and trying to capture that those learning, the learning that's happening in the class, and share that with parents, because a lot of times they don't know. Middle schoolers are classic. They go home, what did you learn today? And the number one answer, nothing. Conversation over. So it's been a process. Went from using websites, and it was too restrictive, and parents weren't able to still see the learning that was taking place. So I started using Google Forms and Forms Publisher add-on. And I have a question set that I came across from Edutopia, and have had to adapt it just a little bit. But it's very simple. The first thing students are going to do is they have to write a summary of their learning and for the week. And that's tough. All of these, they're teach-tos, because usually the first probably 4 weeks to 6 weeks, I'm getting a regurgitation of everything we did. And so we've got to pause, step back, review what's the difference between what you did and then what you learned from those different opportunities. So summaries, over time, the expectation is not only are they speaking to what they've learned, but they're providing evidence to support those claims of learning. And then very structured, but there are 4 sections that they will speak to in regards to learning. We have backward looking, which is, have you done any work like this in the past? If so, how is it similar? How is it different? What do you need to improve on with this week's work? There's usually 6 to 7 questions in every section that students are able to choose from. So the next section is inward looking. So, how do you feel about your work this week? What did you like or not like? Outward looking, how does everyone else perceive your work? Like, if you were the teacher, what would the teacher say about your work? How was your work similar to your peers? And then forward looking, which is, like moving forward, what resources are you going to use again? What goals do you have? And these are the short-term goals, once a week goals. What do you want to focus on for this next week, and how do you plan on accomplishing that goal? So very structured. And as we go through this, it's really, to me, it's a trust builder, because students, I would say initially, they start off as compliant and they're going to do what the expectation is. And, and I keep telling them, obviously they walk in the door, they don't know me. And I tell them that I read these word for word and provide feedback. And then I will change my practice or platforms that I'm using. For example, no offense to Nearpod, but last year, my students, when we're fully remote, kept telling me they really hate Nearpod and they didn't want to see it ever again. And so I'm able to not only use that for myself and change my practice, which really starts building trust between myself and my students, because they know they're being heard, and that what they're putting in this report is allowing them to have a voice in how things are going to be taught within the classroom. And I'm able to take patterns of misconceptions and reteach as we go. As they go through this, they're able to think about their thinking and learning and what worked well and what didn't work so well. And then these are sent home. They're sent home to the parents or guardians. And they're also sent to me. And I get a pretty little spreadsheet of all their work, so everything is documented in the same spot. But we use those every Monday. They get them back. I give them a hard copy with feedback, and they are then kept in a portfolio for future reference, which is every Friday. Then they're going to go grab those and refer back to them, and then at end of quarter and end of year as well.
So these are shared both with students and with parents on an ongoing basis then?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this year, with multiple households, students have asked me, can I put in 2 parents' emails? And so I've had to figure out how to do that, and wasn't a problem. So now both parents in different households are getting these reports. And I've had parents email me and tell me that they're having these conversations. Like last spring, they're having conversations about, we were doing a project with Google Earth, and they're talking about volcanoes and volcanology, and kids are having conversations about learning, like in depth, and their parents are kind of following along this path with them week to week. And so I'm thinking anytime I can get kids talking about learning and talking to their parents more than just a one-word answer of nothing, they're having these in-depth conversations outside of class. They are really able to communicate what they're learning in class, and then they're revisiting it through those conversations with parents.
That is awesome, to engage both the students and the families at home in these conversations is crucial to really building and solidifying the learning that you're doing in the classroom. So how have these reports impacted student learning in your classroom overall? I mean, what has been the impact that you've seen with students, not only just at home, but beyond?
Well, my first year here, I had 7th graders, and so some of them ended up in my class last year as 8th graders, and so I was able to see 2 years worth of growth, and that was way different than just having 8th graders and then sending them to high school. So I've had students, when they look at their portfolio, they've flat out, like, even by Christmas, they're pretty vocal about, wow, look at how much I've learned. And you can see they've made that switch from, I didn't learn anything. And, it's kind of an excuse. If I say I didn't learn anything, then I don't have to do this. But really moving into that deeper understanding, and you can, obviously there's practice going on with this, but as they go, the depth of their responses, the length gets increases of their response, but then the depth, and they're tying concepts from, today all the way back to the beginning of the year, and revisiting all of these and starting to make those connections, and then just verbalizing. I have this student, she came out to me, she's like, wow, I've really learned a lot. And that was literally right before Christmas. And I had another student, his first year, he really struggled. And with metacognition, they talk about people not understanding, like not knowing what they don't know. And I had a student as a 7th grader, he didn't know what he didn't know. And so we put stuff out there, and he would tell you he's aced it, and I'm seeing something totally opposite. Well, he put in a lot of work through the weekly reflection process. And I had him last year as an 8th grader, and he worked really, really hard. And I saw him make that move from not knowing what he didn't know to understanding what he did and didn't know. And so he had made a ton of growth in that regard. And so, he's starting to find some success in identifying, those barriers and being able to move by them. And so I just see critical thinking. Ultimately my goal is problem solving and critical thinkers, whether it's in a science classroom or outside the building, they're able to go out there and be critical thinkers. And I honestly see that as we progress through the year. And I can confidently say that they're ready, they're ready for high school and beyond with their thinking. So.
I've not used them on a regular basis like you do. I use them at quarter, progress report, and at semester. And and having the conversations with students after them reflecting and doing their own self progress report is very powerful. I've seen so much growth in my students from reflecting on their own learning. So I would agree. Using these is definitely something that I think teachers should be doing on a regular basis if we want to empower our students in learning. So first of all, we do have a question from one of our viewers, and I was hoping you can answer this. The question is from Terry Whitmell, and she asks, "I love your structure. A midterm student once again reflect." I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. That's not the question. Here we go. The question was, what vocabulary do you think is crucial to help your students engage in metacognition? So what kind of vocabulary is important?
In regards to just that, the reflective process, like if you're talking about just metacognition and that type of vocabulary, I give the example that I'm teaching you how, like, your brain is a muscle, and I've got like a short YouTube video that talks about, their brain, and I show them the science with the brain and how you're digging your neurons are getting stronger, just like a workout if you were to go lift weights. And so I explain, you keep working out that muscle and you're going to start digging pathways and branch off. I don't use a ton of vocabulary in regards to the metacognition process. I just try to make those analogies for them to understand. It's just like anything else. With practice, you're going to get better.
Okay.
I try not to lose them. I mean, metacognition's, they're like, what? Already.
So do you use the term like reflection or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, yep, they are called reflections. I try to keep, terminology that is grade-based. So learning opportunities, and try to move away from the word work, growth mindset, feedback. So some of those, if you're part of the TG2 community, try to take the language of a traditional classroom out of it and incorporates some of the language that we're more used to, the feedback and learning opportunities and such.
Okay. So now this is going to conclude our conversation here with TG2Chat Live. I want to thank everyone for joining us in this episode. Now, I want to encourage you all to join our after party. For our Patreon supporters at $5 and above, we're going to be going to a Zoom meeting where Rachael will be showing us how she uses Form Publisher for her students, for student-created progress reports, and answer more of your questions. So if you are interested, we'd love to have you there. Rachael would love to show you how she sets up Google Forms and Form Publisher. It's actually fairly simple. If you want to join us, go to patreon.com/gradeless. Again, that's patreon.com/gradeless. And you can join in on our Google Zoom. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. Be sure to join Arthur on January 23rd for our next installment of TG2Chat Live. We appreciate you and look forward to seeing you in our after party.